Coming in hot, I'm your host and captain of the Reason to Reason podcast, Sal Galati. We're going to do something a little bit different. You're just going to get a taste, a dose of reason. Hopefully got an educational and fun show lined up for you today. Sorry it took me so long. Just took me a while to put this one together the way I wanted to. I'm calling it Forked Tongue, Perverters of Speech. So forked tongues, where does that come from? You know, everyone knows the narrative of the serpent in the garden, and that analogy is carried on today. Is forked-tongued person someone who lies, a serpent. And we're going to kind of talk about a thread, whether it's locally, nationally, historically, present day, of two lines of folks, people that are interested in power and people are interested in truth. And I'm going to try to hopefully connect some dots for you. Some good episodes to consider are Marx's Lie versus Jesus' Truth, which is an older one of mine, and Experts' Modern Day False Prophets. I'm going to carry on some similar themes. And I just look at this as like a course. I'm doing a course on how to spot lies, how to navigate through this hall of mirrors of a society that we have now, with the media, with the politicians, with academia, with Hollywood all lying to us, trying to distort the truth, confuse people, or at the very least demoralize people so they don't even care. So like locally we talked about it in the Pride of Men, where the leadership in our town of Park Ridge thought it would be a good idea to have men dressed as women dancing provocatively for children and having the children give them money on the steps of Town Hall. So we tried to parse the nuance of that. This is out of Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. And one of the things he wanted to do was you incite your opposition to kind of do something that you think they'll set up a trap for them to walk into. This isn't about being homophobic or nothing. There's a lot of people in town that are upset about it, and they're going to town hall to voice their opinion and public opinion. They're getting discouraged because nothing's being done. Nothing's being addressed or being ignored. And, you know, my point is you're wasting your time because you're making the assumption you're talking to people that actually care about the truth. But in fact, all they care about is power. Now, the mayor has just recently won an election. Not that he won a ton of votes. Not many people vote, but the few people that vote like him because he plays to their wills and ambitions. The way to change things is to get more people involved. Spread this show. Get people thinking about the issue. Most people don't even know what happened there. And if they knew, they wouldn't be happy about it. So I'm going to read you some quotes, and I'm going to connect some dots here. This is from Cicero in regards to power and law. Power and law are not synonymous. In truth, they are frequently in opposition and irreconcilable. There is God's law, from which all equitable laws of man emerge, and by which men must live, if they are not to die in oppression, chaos, and despair. Divorced from God's eternal and immutable law, established before the founding of the suns, man's power is evil no matter the noble words with which it is employed or the motives urged when enforcing it. So he said, man's law without God's law is inherently wicked. Men of good will, mindful therefore of the law laid down by God, will oppose governments whose rule is by men, and if they wish to survive as a nation, they will destroy the government which attempts to adjudicate by the whim of venal judges. So a couple things to point out. Power and law, they're not synonymous. People are either seeking power or they're seeking true justice, true truth. And you can see that dynamic, and we're going to extrapolate in current events how we're seeing that dynamic. So we're going to bring on a guest next episode who is an attorney that's going to bring the legal ramifications of what went wrong there. There are laws, and the laws perhaps were not followed, and we'll talk about that. But we'll see if people are interested in power or if they're interested in justice and law and truth. The government which attempts to adjudicate by the whim of venal judges. So look, here we are in 2025, and we have venal judges. Venal is a word for corrupt, getting in the way of a duly elected president that had a majority of the population voting for him, all the swing states. He won every which way possible, clearly on a platform saying we need to get people that aren't citizens of this country out of the country, sort out what's going on, only leave the people that want to contribute to our society and not people that want to take via welfare, via crime. Okay, and that is what he was elected to do, but venal judges are getting in the way of him doing that. So this plays to modern day situations. Now, when you ask certain politicians, why would they want millions of people that are illegal to be here? It's obviously about power. They want power. They want to exploit them for their vote, at least exploit them for their representation. We talked about that in another episode. Just by them being here, certain districts have more influence. Certain states have more electoral votes than they should. The House has more seats in certain areas than maybe it should. It doesn't reflect the will of the citizens. It reflects just population. And if you just change that, things change very quickly in this country. And that's why they want him here. Now, the founders sought truth and justice, and I'm going to prove it to you. That was their ambition. That was their goal. In the end, I'm going to talk about what's going on with the ICE agents and how they're being harassed and how certain politicians want them to be harassed. And we'll see the character of the founders versus the ICE agents that are being harassed to do their job, to execute the law, and the liars, the fork-tongued deceivers, the perverters of speech that we have in high levels of government and media and politics. So in regards to the founders, we just celebrated Independence Day, and I want to make the distinction. It's Independence Day. It's not the 4th of July. That's another perversion of speech. They want to distract you and disorient you. I have an episode called Setting Up Your Stones, where I talk about these holidays are monuments set up to remember what happened. Here's a monument. It's on a stone plaque. By signing the Declaration of Independence, the 56 Americans pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. It was no idle pledge. 9 signers died of wounds during the Revolutionary War. 5 were captured or imprisoned. Wives and children were killed, jailed, mistreated, or left penniless. 12 signers' houses were burned to the ground. 17 lost everything they owned. No signer defected. Their honor, like their nation, remained intact. And they knew that. They signed it knowing that they were going to likely be persecuted and killed as a result of going against the king. But they did it anyway because they were interested in truth, justice, and the law. They weren't interested in power. If they were interested in power, they were part of the clique. They would have remained status quo. And that's what we need. We need more people interested in the law, justice, and truth, and less people interested in power.
Are you looking for an affordable Christian education for your children that supports your values? For 20 years, Classical Consortium Academy has been doing just that. With 2 days of classical Christian instruction on campus and the rest at home, CCA's hybrid model gives you the best of both worlds, a deep learning and time together. And this fall, CCA is opening a brand new Glenview campus at Cornerstone Church. Discover the education you've been praying for at classicalconsortiumacademy.org. Enroll today.
So if you're upset what happened at Park Ridge, get involved, pay attention, learn, and vote. That's the way you're going to change things. And start learning how to spot the lie versus spotting the truth. So let's do some exercises with that. John Brennan, he was the head of the CIA, says that the investigation into him and James Comey for their role in a Russian collusion hoax is the authoritarian playbook. He compares it to Nazi Germany. If a president of the United States is willing to weaponize intelligence and justice, we really are in deep, deep trouble. So let me help. This is going to take a little bit, but track with me. John Brennan was the head of the CIA. He lied under oath. He's being investigated. We'll see if he's a fork-tongued liar. We'll see if he'll see justice. But he's accusing his opposition of what he did. And he was one of the 51 people under the direction of the Biden chief of staff to sign the letter that the Hunter Biden laptop was just Russian disinformation when they knew it wasn't, amongst many other crimes. And this is going to bring me to Saul Alinsky, who I mentioned earlier in his book, Rules to Radicals. Now, there's a website called Snopes, and I want you to check it out because what Snopes does, it's called a fact checker. It's so good at making people think something is true when it's not or something's not true when it is. So the claim is that Saul Alinsky, who wrote this book, Rules for Radicals, which is a playbook essentially for how to be an agitator, accusing your enemies of what you do yourself, or holding up your enemy to standards that they can't possibly. So the claim is that Saul Alinsky dedicated Rules for Radicals to Lucifer, and they say it's mostly false. Now, interestingly enough, Saul Alinsky is a hero to Hillary Clinton and many other politicians on the left. So did Saul Alinsky dedicate Rules for Radicals to Lucifer? No. He did write in his epigraph of the book this: lest we forget at least an over-the-shoulder acknowledgement to the very first radical, the first radical known to man who rebelled against the establishment and did so effectively that he at least won his own kingdom, Lucifer. That's Saul Alinsky. So did he dedicate it? Not technically, but it's an epigraph, right? So they focus on it wasn't a dedication, so he didn't say it. No, he said it. And people, they want to run from it, but they can't. Now let's read from the Bible, and I know we're jumping around, but I'm trying to connect some stuff for you. Here's what the Bible says in Proverbs. The fear of the Lord is hatred of evil, pride and arrogance in the way of evil, and perverted speech I hate. Perverted speech. What Snopes does is perverted speech. They twist it. They don't help you actually see what the truth is. They distort it, and they rely on you using the headline, and they rely on people that aren't interested in the truth either, just power. When they make their arguments, they forward around news articles. No, he never said that, see, and they forward it. Another passage from the Bible, this is from John 8, verse 44. This is Jesus debating with the elite. of his time. The men in robes, the ones who think they're better than everyone else. These happen to be the religious leaders, but call it the political leaders, the media leaders, the professors, all the ones who think they're better than you, all the false prophets, the fake experts, the ones that know nothing. You are of your father the devil, and your will is to do your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in truth, because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks out of his own character, for he is a liar and a father of lies. But because I tell you the truth, you do not believe me. Which one of you convicts me of sin? If I tell you the truth, why do you not believe me? Whoever is of God hears the words of God. The reason why you do not hear them is that you are not from God. So wow. Here Saul Alinsky writes in his epigraph that Lucifer inherited a kingdom for his rebelness. And he did. He is the God of this world. He's running things. That's why everything's so messed up, and that's why there's lies everywhere. The new kingdom's coming, but this isn't a Bible show. But notice how Jesus says, you're of your father the devil. Now, who's Saul Alinsky's father? Is it the God of truth, or is it the God of power? The devil. I think it's the God of power. Who's Brennan's father? I think it's the God of power. He's a fork-tongued liar. He's from his father the devil. So as we weigh and measure the things that we hear and the people that are saying them to us, try to distinguish, are these people interested in power, or are they interested in law and the truth and justice? Are they from their father the devil, or are they from the father of God, who is light and truth? He cannot lie. Which God are they subscribed to? The founders were subscribed to the God of truth. And the founders that signed that document, they proved it to me because they were willing to lay their lives down for that. Now, these scoundrels will never lay down their life for truth or for anyone else. They're only interested in power. And this is a way to help determine who's telling the truth, who's telling a lie. And I go over it in Experts, Modern Day False Prophets. Let's talk Fauci briefly. Fauci, in the beginning of the pandemic, told everyone, and I'm going to do a little bit of a weave here, by the way. Trump coined this, and I love it because I do this. And I try not to do it because I don't want to lose people during the show. But when I talk, I kind of jump around a lot of different topics, but I connect the dots at the end. And that's what he calls it, the weave. Seemingly a tangent, but he brings it back. And before I forget, shout out to Jake and August on my team for their birthdays. They told me to do that, so have a happy birthday, have a good time. So regarding masks, in the beginning of the pandemic, Fauci told everyone the masks were really not effective to wear in public spaces, which was good science and true. We known that for a long time. In a hospital setting, or if you are sick, or if you're immune compromised, they could be beneficial, if you're sneezing and you're trying to keep the virus from spreading that way. But just walking around outdoor, walking around in public spaces, breathing in and out, the masks served no purpose, okay? Then when it became politically advantageous to him, he was all about the masks. 1 mask, 2 masks, 3 masks. He's appearing before Congress with the stupid rag of a Washington Nationals baseball team with 4 masks. It was such an embarrassment and caused such confusion, and we all know it to be a lie now. So here's another example of a fact check. There's a Snopes did a fact check because someone posted that clip and said Fauci admits that they're useless. And then the fact check goes, did Fauci say that? And it goes, no, false. He didn't say they were useless. He said they were ineffective. It's like ridiculous. All that to say, the whole madness about everyone wearing masks was a farce, and we know that now. And forcing kids to wear them, kids couldn't learn how to speak. But whatever. How do we determine who's telling the truth and who's telling a lie at that point? Well, with Fauci is who was incentivized to lie. And so you had the people that were being attacked like the founders were, and losing credentials, losing friends, losing sponsors, losing their medical practice for saying what they knew was true, and they were interested in the truth. Whereas Fauci would say whatever he needed to say to assume power, to keep power. He wasn't interested in the truth. That's just a way to determine it, looking back at it the past. And I'm trying to help you to navigate who's of truth and who's of power. And that's the dichotomy, who's interested in what. And so regarding the masks, now we're fast forward, we have ICE agents. And ICE stands for U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Now, everything these people are doing is completely within the confines of the law. All they're doing is executing the law that's already on the books, which is the job of the executive branch of government. Now, Cory Booker, who's a fork-tongued liar, twister, distorter, deceiver, you can look at his track record, always looking to self-grandize himself, a very low IQ individual. Speaking of IQ, little sidebar, the man with the highest IQ is professed that Jesus is Lord and Savior. I think that's interesting. Go check it out for all the brainiacs and everyone who thinks they're smarter than everyone else because they They don't believe in the Bible. Check that out. Anyway, he is proposing legislation that says that the ICE agents can no longer wear masks. So here's the nuance, right? I don't want people running around with masks from the government throwing people into buses. I don't want that. Unfortunately, because of the fork-tongued liars and deceivers, they have convinced children, both physical children and mental children, that the ICE agents are equivalent to Nazis. And equating that, which was people herding up other humans, putting cattle cars to be exterminated, with agents of the state putting people that don't belong here out of the country, is tragically irresponsible. And it's leading to these kids attacking the ICE agents. And notice the Nazi thing. You know, the party that harbors known anti-Semites and Nazis are the people that constantly attack the other side of the political aisle as Nazis. Do they really believe it? I mean, this is not the equivalent to Nazis. Brennan says it's out of the Nazi playbook because he's being investigated for lying. That's out of the Nazi playbook? You're a liar. They have put out so much negative words about these people that are simply trying to do their job, the job that the president was elected to do, that they're being attacked. Some have been, their families have been persecuted. So look at the founders, look how they were treated. Look at the doctors that were speaking out against Fauci and his lies, and look how they were treated. And now look at these men and how they're treated, and women doing this job that we elected them to do. Now the people that are attacking them can wear masks, but Cory Booker wants the ICE agents not to wear masks. So out of one end of his fork-tongued mouth, he's saying that they're Nazis, and the other forked end of his mouth, they can't wear masks. So here's how I know Cory Booker's full of it, and I would love to debate such a low IQ person. Hey, Cory, have you also proposed a side bill that says that anyone that's burning down a federal building or attacking a federal agent can't be wearing a mask? I didn't see that one. All these cowards running around with masks to mask their identity as they commit crime. You know, 10 years ago, when people ran around with masks, we knew they were criminals. Now, because of this nonsensical medical issue that people had to wear masks all around, now there's justification for people wearing masks when they walk into a bank and you can't tell if they're going to rob it or if they're going to take out a couple $100. The distortions have gotten to a fever pitch, and we have to call them out. So as you're about and you read the headlines and you're looking and you're listening, don't get demoralized. Pay attention, get engaged. It's quite easy to see who's seeking power and who's seeking truth. So what are you seeking? Who's your father? Are you seeking truth, the God of truth, or are you seeking power and the things of this world? So I'll leave you with that. Again, Taste of Park Ridge is going on. I'll be walking around with my Make America Great Again hat, and stop by, say hi. And our next episode will be pretty cool. We'll talk to Lucas about some of the legal issues with the events that happen at City Hall, and just try to orient on how we actually engage on these things and help and make difference and change. You could go there and speak, you're welcome to, but no one's listening. They don't care. They only seek power. They're not interested in the truth. Peace.
Sing it!
Thanks for joining us for another episode. I hope I got you thinking and out of your comfort zone. Believe me, the biggest fear your government has is a population that is thinking and talking to one another. So get out there, take a risk, start a conversation, make a friend, and reason with each other. Share the show with someone who you think needs to hear it. I wish you peace and love.